Oh, hey, and welcome back to Coffee with Andreas, where I'm pouring a cup of Kenyan coffee. And in Kenya, we're actually seeing some amazing development, a transition of sorts. But before I get to that and the updates around Kenya, Peru, and Brazil, I want to talk to you about our next guest that I'm very excited about. Today, we'll be joined by Kelvin Botden. I think he's our I know he's our director of Latin America, Spanish America, Hispanic America, all the Americas. And with him, I will have a cup. And now, I promised you the update from Kenya. There is a transition happening in Kenya, in Peru, in Brazil. We are transitioning with our technology and the knowledge that we've built from mere digital infrastructure to forming a carbon industry, forming a carbon market in specific nations. How does that work? We work in phase one with one project in Kenya. 42,000, not 24, 42,000 hectares of smallholder coffee farms that transition into a different way of doing what they're doing. Planting shade trees, adding organic fertilizers to their practices. All that is defined by our team, and the farmers are taken to a phase one project in a specific region that can then be scaled to the whole nation. So we intend to reach and build a carbon infrastructure for 1.3 million farmers in Kenya. The same thing we're transitioning into in Peru, where we have an early stage, a phase one Amazonas project, where we take 45,000 hectares of threatened territory and initiate a conservation and reforestation project. And that 45,000 hectares can scale to 12 more cooperatives that have similar size producing territory. And there we take it to about 450,000 hectares. And that same transition is happening in Brazil, where our customers that we have been working with on digitization have formed a first phase project in Roraima, and that is 23,000 hectares that can scale once everybody joins into this phase. Into the later phases can scale up to 10 million hectares. That's exciting because we are bringing true difference to these communities with our technology, with our knowledge, with our capacity building trainings that we now talk about with Kelvin Bodden, and I'm excited to see him here in a minute. Drum rolls, please. And now it is my distinct pleasure to welcome to today's podcast the one and only director of Latin America, friend and pioneer par excellence, Kelvin. How are you today? Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andreas. I was really looking forward to be here in your kitchen and drinking some nice coffee. So really happy to be here. Excited about this.
Well, here we are. And before we get into it, you're right. What are you drinking today? Tell us.
Oh, actually, so I actually brought a very special mug. So I have this everywhere I go. Oh, sorry. Didn't play. I broke the protocol, my bad, but I wanted to bring a special mug. Everywhere I go, I typically have a mug from the place I travel to. So I don't know, remembers me of a story of maybe a situation that I really loved and coffee. So this one is particularly from Colombia, from Bogota. And you see, this cathedral is a very famous cathedral, which is in the top of the hill, which is called Montserrat. So I just saw it and I said, oh, I need to have that. So I just wanted to bring this mug and share this story with you. The beautiful moment that I had with my mom, actually, for our first time in Colombia together. So, yes.
Ah, thank you so much. And do you remember by any chance tasting Colombian coffee there? Was there a special moment where you said, wow, this is truly
Oh, that was
something
the first
special?
time I did. that's the first thing I did. And actually, it's funny because they call it tinto. So they call tinto black coffee. So I remember a very specific batch of coffee which had a natural process. In other words, they don't wash the coffee. They don't process it. They just essentially roast it with the husk, right? So it tastes very differently. And so far, I believe it's in my top 5 coffees ever.
Wow, I'm excited just hearing about it. Maybe you can send me some over. Oh, you're in Honduras. I guess because quite honestly, I'm receiving all these guests, but nobody's ever sending me coffee. So I have to
Okay.
pledge and plead to you guys out there, and you, Calvin, maybe you're at the source of it. Send me some coffee that I should taste,
Yeah.
or send me a link to coffee I should taste. And this is a good one, the Colombian one, with a naturally dried process, I guess. Cool. But you didn't study coffee, did you?
So, well, to begin with, you presented myself as a pioneer. So I'll be the first one to send you coffee from Honduras.
Ye-
So being recorded,
Fantastic.
you can help me accountable. So actually, yeah, I started in coffee. I essentially navigated my way around. Okay, so I love coffee, love drinking coffee, I love the culture around coffee. So what am I doing here? I'm not a producer, I'm not a buyer, and I started working advising coffee farmers. So I work with, and I'll mention this because it's I believe one of the most important things I ever did in coffee, which was helping um, a coffee producing family from Honduras, the Moreno family. And it was very, very, I had mixed feelings whenever I worked with them. They had the best specialty coffee, the most expensive coffee in every single competition at a national level. They were in the top spots. And they currently have the best coffee in Honduras. But they wanted to throw their coffee to the river because they were not getting their fair share. And even they said that the way they were being treated changed the way they talked, the way they walked. So we started working with them and giving them advice around
Wait, hold on. You lost me here, and maybe the audience. You started working with them in what capacity? Because you didn't start in AgTech, did you? You started in
yeah,
social impact and public planning?
yeah. So basically, I have experience in community development with a focus on triple impact, ending poverty. So during my early years in high school and college, I really worked in how can we end poverty, right? So it got me thinking, okay, so why am I in a country which is so productive, has so much land, has hardworking farmers, but we have a 60% of people who are poor and more than 30% who are in extreme poverty? So I started working in community development. I started as a consulting as small businesses and farmers around marketing, legal aspects. So that's how I started my journey in coffee. And together with um, um, social enterprise, which I started in Honduras for social project traceability, we did the first regional coffee competition together with the Honduran Association of Coffee Farmers and the
Mhm.
Honduran Coffee Institute. So the
And that
whole
was what year?
that was in, oh boy, a good question. That was around 2020, 2021.
Do you remember the moment when you realized, or the conversation you had, that made you think Dimitra was the right place for you as of, I guess, progression from where you started?
Absolutely. So there's three things which I had worked on one hand, as I mentioned before, community development in rural areas. I worked with farming communities and also was in the government. So when I realized, oh, Dimitra is working in the rural communities, is working with farmers, which is the backbone of our economy, And also, where we're striving for this triple impact and long-term sustainability, I said, oh, this is the place where I need to be. And just to give you a better picture of what I thought is, okay, so I live in a country which is in the top spots of inequality, poverty, but we have many farmers, we have great crops, and we have a lot of land. So I found in Dimitra the place where we could empower these communities, especially because most of the farmers, more than 90% are smallholder farmers. So if we can empower them, we can make our country prosper.
And what conversation was that? What conversation was that triggered that realization? Oh wow, this is it.
Yeah, the first conversation, and actually it was a LinkedIn message, which was sent by Diego, who was our current COO. At that moment, he was the director of Latin America. And he said, hey, I saw you. This is Dimitra. Let's have a conversation. And when I realized, oh, everything that Dimitra was doing, I said, I need to be here. So I started as a sales partner. And we had our first meeting with Diego. And he told me all of the solutions, the ecosystem, the projects, the vision, and what was being accomplished not only in the region, but also in the world. And I said, I have to be part of this somehow.
And when you look at your region and what people outside think, or what people outside Latin America consistently get wrong about how agriculture works in your region, is there something that you can pinpoint there?
People from the outside, how they see things differently from the outside, from the farmer's perspective. So one thing that I realize is the farmers are doing things well. The farmers have sustainable practices. The farmers are actually doing the job, but they lack visibility. They lack data. They lack transparency. And they lack also the knowledge on how to turn this data, visibility, and transparency into value to the buyers. So typically there's this perception where the smallholder farmers should not do the job. They are. They just lack visibility.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we come across that not only in Latin America, but in other regions, right? And when you talk about triple impact, um, which sounds a little abstract sometimes, can you give us an example of a project where that economic, social, and environmental outcome was part of the project?
Absolutely. So I'll mention the Mexico Carbon Project, which I believe is a great example. So we're currently in the developing a carbon project in Mexico in the Sierra Valley. So this is a region that has more than 300,000 hectares. We're starting with more than 26,000 hectares, and you have indigenous communities living there. So on one hand, from their worldview, they want to protect and preserve the natural resources, but also they need additional revenue opportunities for the families. So how does the project accomplish these two things, right? On one hand, they have the possibility to collect all the data around traceability of their farms. So that gives them more visibility and more value to their buyers. On the other hand, they have to plant trees and they have to monitor if there's any fire in the region. They have to make sure they preserve the forest, right? But not only preserve it, but to plant more trees. So in this way, they're also preserving the planet. And for preserving the planet, they can sell the credits from the carbon credits, right? So through the selling of these carbon credits, they will receive additional revenue opportunities for their families. And the third component is, well, actually I mentioned actually the three, right? Social, economic, environmental. And the other part of it is the trees which they're planting are melliferous trees. In other words, they incentivize or they attract bees, right? So they generate other revenue opportunities which are not related to timber logging, such as selling honey or any other byproduct from the trees.
Was there a social impact in any of the projects that you've been involved in that surprised you, that you didn't expect?
I remember, well, I expect I actually expected it. So typically, the first story that I'd like to share is with Comisuil, first cooperative that we work with in Honduras, and actually are still working with. So we met in 2023. Yeah, 2023. And they had a problem. They wanted to comply with the ODR. So they said, we're a small cooperative. We have a challenge. We need someone to help. So Cafe said, here's Dimitra. They can help you with your problem. We were the first to send an EODR compliant shipment in July 2024 from Honduras to Ireland. And when I visited the farms, I realized, oh, there's a lot of deforestation in the region, but they are different. They are not deforestating as their neighbors. And what I kind of expected, but it became reality until actually they took the steps together with us to send the data around EODR, that the buyer said, you know what, I'm going to pay you more for this data, which was something that it was a like. We wanted, of course, for this to happen. Again, it was something that you're not sure if it's going to happen, but we took the steps, they trusted us, and they did the work, and it happened. So that was very surprising. And then when I meet with the Honduran Coffee Institute, and they say, you know what, there's this cooperative which they are digitized, they have their data governance, and they're complying with EODR since 2024, and they are an example for all of us nationally. And they mention Comisuel, and then I tell them, hey, you know what, we work this out together. I didn't expect the ripple effect of this project of a very small cooperative who was very forward thinking and who is leading the way in the country.
That gives me a great follow-up question to talk about the country of Mexico and how you have this great carbon project, and with Finca Hamburgo you have a next one that
Yes.
is a true project with true people that are excited to learn from us, that use our technology and take it to the next level. Um, how how did those two come together? Are they related or not at all? Is it both through how does it work to get those projects? And maybe as an example, those two.
You mean the carbon project in Mexico and the project with Finca Hamburgo, right? If they're connected, and if
Correct.
so, how they're connected.
Exactly.
Okay, so they are and aren't connected. Why am I saying this? Because it's it's part of the steps we take on the country, right? So they are connected in some sense because we're building trust at a national level, and we just have a project right now with the best coffee shop in the world. They just went to Europe and they received the prize for being the top 3 coffee shops in Mexico and one of the best around the world. Um, and on the other hand, sorry, I'm trying to make the connection between the two of them.
Well, if there is no connection, but only the great work of Jose in Mexico, then that's fine. You don't have to make up a connection. I'm just trying to keep the conversation going. You know how it is. Not
Well,
only drinking coffee,
actually,
we're having a good conversation.
and actually, the way I see the connection is how we work in each country. So it's a step-by-step process where, yes, we're looking for these national level projects, and we are working in national level projects, but we start with one cooperative, one exporter, one community, and now, and if we use that as an example for the Mexico project, we're starting with 26,000 plus hectares, but we're going to reach more than 300,000 hectares. So it's a step-by-step process, and that's where they're connected because this is part of the steps that we take at a national level.
Very interesting, sometimes confusing, not only for me, but maybe for people out there. So, for those of you who are listening and don't know what we're talking about, a carbon project that is developed with indigenous farmers together to get more value from their work to them through the carbon market, the international one. So we're connecting buyers and project requirements and certifiers to get everything together, constructed, right? And that's where you've been a pioneer. That's why I introduced you as a pioneer, because you have taken the first of currently 10 projects in our portfolio to the PDD stage, where now we had the first verification audit, and you're reworking the next steps to get to that first phase that you mentioned of roughly 26,000 hectares. And then we want to scale it to give them the maximum exposure to this market, right? We want to take them by the hand. And not only that one cooperative, but you mentioned the national project, where we want to see how do we give others that same platform to run a carbon project together with us. Exciting. And from all these projects, now you're working across Honduras, across Peru and Mexico, you mentioned, and Colombia, you mentioned, and well, all of Latin America. Which of those projects so far has taught you the most, and why?
Okay. It's like kind of when you ask a father if they have any favorites. Boy, let me just think about it, because I learn every single day with the projects. Whenever I engage with the stakeholders, with the farmers, and I would say that the one where I have learned the most has been for sure the carbon project. And I remember when Dimitra decided or said, we're ready, we can start developing carbon projects. And I felt like that was a huge challenge, but also an opportunity. And the first thing we said, because this is a joint effort both with Jose Ocio, which is the Mexico sales partner, and he has been leading the way on the ground with the local stakeholders. And we said, we need to find a partner who's looking forward to do this together with us. And that's when we met the foundation Biosphere of Alica. Together with them, we have learned through this process many things. And you start with the basics, right? Because you're saying, okay, I need to develop a carbon project. But to begin with, what is a carbon project? How does this work? And how can we bring this clarity to the communities? You need to really translate this into simple language. So in this process where you are learning this complexity of the standards, methodologies, what it means to really execute a project, you have to simplify this for the communities, especially indigenous communities. And even in the case of Mexico and one upcoming project we have in Peru, they don't even speak Spanish. So it has to be very simple. And in this process with Mexico, and now we're starting with Peru, I've learned so much.
So, Kevin, and when you work in your territory of Latin America and you're working with coffee farmers and cocoa farmers, because we have those solutions for both, how is the work different from coffee cooperatives to cocoa cooperatives in terms of culture and challenges and
Yeah.
expectations?
Yeah, that's a great question, because farmers are very similar throughout the whole region. But what makes a difference is how the value chain works. So in the case of coffee farmers, they are more organized. They have an institute, they have many different instances where they receive technical assistance, they have many cooperatives. But in cocoa, it's very different. You have many small, scattered smallholder farmers. And typically, there's one or just a few bunch of exporters who are essentially um, defining the rules for all the farmers, or they have the lead on how things should be done in the country. So it's more complex to work in cocoa. And typically we end up speaking with the cooperatives, the associations, and they always say, if you want to make this work, at least in a big scale, you have to speak with the exporter X, Y, or Z. And that has happened throughout the whole region, from Mexico. And in some countries, it's not as much. For instance, in Colombia, it's different. They do have the national federation. They're more structured. But typically, cocoa farmers are more scattered.
So the challenges, I guess, have been addressed in our app, and we meet the different stakeholders in those chains with value-adding functionality, I would say, right? Because sometimes we might not even reach the farmer ever, and we only reach the processing agent or the collection agent. So what impressed me when I first looked at the technology and the tech stack that we have is that we truly meet our users where they are. What does that mean? We help them digitize their current flow of documentation, of paper documents that they have and that we can replicate digitally. So what impressed me with Dimitra when I first joined them was that early on I realized, here's someone that understands the farmers. Here's someone that understands if we don't reach the farmer, we need to reach the processing agent or the collection agent or the trader, because they will then connect us to the farmers. So the value added by great functionality is, I think, what impressed me.
Yeah. And actually, what I really love, and I love it because the farmers love it, is that we do listen. We sit down with them, we listen. So we understand them. We adapt because we have the functionality. We partner and we guide them. And this is a long-term journey, and we're together. So I'm the same page with you, Andreas. I love how we work with the farmers, and they love it as well. So
Let's focus back on you and your amazing background and in public sector planning, working with NGOs and startups. How does that background change the way you approach a new development now, uh, compared to someone who is coming from pure tech, like our some of our other team members? What's your unique perspective that you can share with us?
you focus mostly on the people, their actual needs, and how you can help them, right? And I believe that a lot of people around tech, they develop the tech and then they think about the people. Understanding how the rural areas work, working alongside with them, listening to them, having empathy, and saying, hey, how can we work together to turn this around for the communities by them leading the way, is what actually makes a difference. And not saying, I have this solution, I know what to do, and I'm going to impose you what I believe you should do for yourself and your family. So I believe that's a different perspective. And
Yeah,
you
I
can search
agree.
that because and also if you know when someone doesn't like you. So when you speak with farmers and they say, or they agree with you and they say, you know what, this guy's actually listening to me, and he sees me as an equal, not as doesn't he's not looking down at me, and that it makes a difference. That's why I mentioned the example of the exporter working with the Morena family, and they felt like ashamed even to speak with them, to engage with them. So that makes a lot of difference, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. And I talked with our Kenyan team this morning actually about that. How do we build trust, not only in one direction, but also that they have the trust, our customers, our partners, our digital champions that we build within these communities. How do we build enough trust so that they trust themselves to give us feedback, to ask us questions, to challenge us with things, right? So stakeholder engagement is much, much more than just training someone. It's
Yeah.
truly engaging with the communities, and that's what you have done a big portion of your life. Well, I guess all your life. We've all tried to do it. And growing up in a village myself, I know what you mean, that inherent clarity that with our authenticity or your authenticity in this matter as a person that has worked for farmers and on behalf of farmers for so long, that drives you to get it done, but that authenticity also makes you a person of trust. And now trust, we use that word a lot. And I actually want to learn something from you, but what does earning trust actually look like with a farming community that will and
Oh, that's
some of them, I mean, some of them are critical. I know they've been promised results by other organizations before. They've been promised extra money before, but how do you see it on the ground actually building that trust? What happens? How do you
yeah,
build
it's
trust?
actually, I mean, it's easier said than done, but it's quite simple. Like if you are, and I'm giving you, and I can think of many examples. So if you listen closely, you really address their concerns, and you don't overpromise, and you're transparent, you're direct with them, they appreciate that. And farming communities, it's really hard for them to trust anyone. And typically they trust essentially someone that is a farmer. So myself, as not being a farmer, saying, "Hey, trust me," it's more challenging. But just essentially treating them as a human being, as someone that is important than yourself. I typically, I do believe that the people around me, I have to treat people around me with more importance than myself, which made me not sure if it's good or bad, but I do believe that, or at least with the same respect that I should treat myself. Um, and I'm just there, right? And I'm gonna give you one example actually, so it's more real. When we started conversating with the foundation to start the carbon project in Mexico, we had an online meeting, right? And we asked them, "What are you looking to accomplish in the Sierra Valley? What's your goal? What's your vision?" So they started talking about different projects, initiatives, and they mentioned carbon. And they said, "We have been looking forward to develop a carbon project for about 5 years, but we haven't been able to. We haven't found the right partner. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know what are the next steps." And it was funny because we kind of saw each other virtually, both Jose in Mexico and myself in Andreas, and we're like, okay, let's figure this out. So very quickly, we visited them. We met the area. We met the members of the foundation. We engaged even with the communities. And we said, okay, so we got to figure this out. And along every step of the way, we listened closely and hardly. We addressed the concerns. We built a plan. And we just did what we said we were going to do. We were going to visit
Yeah,
you.
you showed up. You showed up getting it done. That's and to recap, Carbon Project for an indigenous community in Alica Sierra. What does that mean? Well, we are building a project that returns money to them in terms of um, carbon credits that they produce by actually taking carbon out of the air and putting it into the ground, because they're the only ones that are actually doing that on a daily basis by planting new trees, protecting old ones, by doing certain agricultural, um, learning new ways to do agriculture to be more sustainable, use less water, protect more species, and so on. So you're
Yeah,
building trust. You said in layers, where you meet
layers. Yeah.
them once in, you meet them online, you meet them in person, you get the steps done, and you guide them through the steps that they need to do, right? And that's where, for me, the things come together at Dimitra, where all that expertise that we have that has created a great platform that has multiple layers of software functionality and value for the farmers and other stakeholders, but um, that it all comes together to meet the farmer, because our data scientists will not, all their knowledge will not translate well to the farmer, because you already said it. Sometimes they don't even speak Spanish, so we have to meet them in the local dialect, in the local language, and yeah, that's where again you're a pioneer by applying my theories of layers of trust being built and seeing how it's actually working. How do we reach those young minds, ideally, that can grow with us and our technology within the next decade or two, right? So, and you led young volunteers in rural communities already before you met us here at Dimitra, Tech Honduras, I think it's
Yes.
how it was called, that project. And so you've worked with these volunteers and you've gotten them going. So how does that experience show up in your work today
Yes.
here, and how you scale and realize what we have to scale within Dimitra?
Oh yeah, actually, I was actually remembering some stories about my experience in techo, which is roof in English. Um, and like we had like all of the volunteers were young, right? College students, high school students, so they were very energetic. Most of us dreamt about changing the world, but also in the meantime having this social conscience. Okay, so I'm aware that things are not as they supposed to be. I live in a city where I have running water, I have electricity, I have this and that. But now I'm going to a whole different context, whole different culture. So that experience of connecting these two worldviews, cultures together, connecting them with young people, and essentially working together. Because one main thing we did was building, we use a different terms, not houses, but we built houses,
Shelter. Mhm.
shelters. Yeah, shelters are houses, right? Because we work in communities that had a shortage of housing, right? You have this energetic people from the cities running around the communities and building shelters. So what I really loved about it is was the relationship that we were able to build with the communities.
And that created the community feel between the volunteers from the city and the locals.
Yes, and in that moment, like typically, like we had an emotional moment, some words. We even had some like monuments, let's say, that we did something right there. That experience of, hey, how can we work together, partner together, understand the culture? We build something tangible together, and we celebrate this, and we are partners with the communities. Um, that's what made the difference, I believe. Working with all these volunteers.
So you created a feedback loop of gratification, right? And that, by building a a shelter, you see the result right there. You can feel it, you can move into it, you can huddle under the roof when it's pouring rain out. But how do you get that feedback loop from the software when you work with communities there? Is it through just the digital champions? Tell me, where's
Yeah.
that feedback loop to of gratification for everybody involved?
Yes. I remember the first time I visited Comesuel, we were in one of the farms, and the technician, which is the digital champion, his name is Wilson Cardenas. We had a few trainings before visiting them, and we were at, not sure if Raquel's farm or any other farm. So he said, in the training, you said that I can geofence this farm without internet connection. And we said, yes, sure, you can do that. And he said, I'm going to put that to the test. So he literally disappeared for I don't know how many minutes. So we were conversating with Brian, which is the sales partner here in Honduras, and with the farmer. He showed up after many minutes later and he said, And I remember him because he was smiling. He was with a smile on his face. It works. So
That's fantastic. So, just for our listeners, quickly, the Digital Champion Program is our empowerment of people in the communities that want to become digital champions or want to become communications champions. So we're meeting them to give them an opportunity of a new career, maybe, or a new vision of a career, because they haven't gone digital yet in their communities. So that digital champion is going to grow with us towards, well, a new career, possibly. That's what excites me every day from the feedback that I get out of Kenya, out of Uganda, out of Mexico, out of Peru, that people get it, right? So that gratification of instant gratification when you've built a house and you can move in and you're like, yes, now I've seen the work of the last week. Um, how does it show up? Well, through something that, what's his name? The digital champion at
Wilson.
Comisuil?
Wilson.
Wilson. So Wilson gave you that gratifying moment and he had it himself, right? So, and by the way, for those of you who don't know our technology that well, it is possible to, and has to be possible to work in rural areas where there is no connection, so that the data collection and geofencing of a farm is done through GPS points. So that is possible even when
Yes.
you're not within our app, of course, Connected Cocoa or Connected Farmer, Connected Coffee. So that GPS-based location definition or mapping is possible offline. So when you're in rural Africa or Latin America, anywhere rural, you can still do your work, and that then harmonizes with the database when you're back online. So, and that was a moment where Wilson said, wow, now I have another layer of trust that you're actually delivering what you talked about.
Yeah. This was this moment where actually it was very funny because we were there present at a training. Let's call it training around EODR, led by the eCafe. And Comisuel was there. So after the spokesperson was ended presenting, the president of Comisuel standed up and said, collecting our geofences, what are you talking about? We have all our data. And we were trained by Dimitra. And I was standing like in the back of the room, like, okay. So we are ready. And we've sent already a compliance shipment. And we have done it ever since 2024. So I like that moment because on one hand, that is feedback, right? It's live, raw feedback in a room full of farmers at the Coffee Institute. And also is showing that it actually works. They are digital champions and they present themselves as we are digitized, we are ready, we are leading the way. And we've done this together with Dimitra. So that also brought another layer of trust to all the exporters, farmers, and eCafe as well in the room. So it was very nice.
After all that work across many different countries now, what has this work changed for you personally over the last couple of years?
It has helped me grow, challenge myself, and finding new horizons because I never thought I was going to be a digital expert in agriculture, to be honest, by this year. Um, Also that people see us or sees me as someone they can trust in this regard. If the government is talking about building digital infrastructure or they are talking about EODR or any other related topics, they invite us. And of course, I'm leading the way. I'm building the relationships. So it has changed me because I have become through the Mitra a thought leader in a very specific topic or a uh, specific niche.
In a niche that touches 500 million farmers worldwide, by the
Yeah,
way. Just a little niche where
just a
you
little
are
bit.
now, you're right, you are now an expert after all this work with us experts. And us experts, I can only give you a commercial expertise that I have. Then there is the data science expertise that we hear every week about. And um, unfortunately, we can't re- revisit all that knowledge because it's so complex that we don't even know where to start talking about it, right? So that expertise, and for me, it's also an interesting question that I should ask myself. But it's really becoming an expert is then translating it from the complex to the specific that everybody can understand, to show them how it's done, right? To show them, and Wilson showing you in that example that, that's how it's done. Let me check it real quick. And that's where I see the biggest impact when I turn the meeting from just talking about it to
Mm-hmm.
actually showing a
Going up.
data set flow from farmer registration
Mm-hmm.
to a fully complete EUDR shipment. That is impact. And that's when the customer or the potential customer or the person in the government we talk to, that's when they realize, oh, they're not just talking, they actually built it. It's already working. And that's where I see a lot of misunderstanding of what EUDR actually is, right? Because they haven't even started, some of these experts that we hear talk about it. Have you actually started collecting data on the farm level? Have you
Yeah.
worked with the stakeholders to train them? And that's where we can come in. And that's where you've done so much. And I wonder sometimes what keeps you going when one of those projects stalls, or when connectivity fails, or when you have a friction with a partner. How do you keep it going? What is it here in Dimitra environment that keeps you going?
So, I mean, whenever there's a challenge, we have to, of course, see it as an opportunity to either improve something, that have a better process. And what I feel is that I don't have to even fix it myself, because there's this global family that embraces me, empowers me, and empowers our partners, customers, and the others and
The
other.
local family, thank you for that
Yeah.
framing. It is what our investors call us sometimes. And it is the feeling that we carry in us because that's what we have to be to the farmers,
Mhm.
to build that trust. That's the only way to be, to show up to them authentically, and
Mm.
with not only technology in our pack, but also great training and an opportunity to grow, right? So that's cool. It is your mindset and our mindset, I agree. And showing up as a team, because it takes a village to make a village, right? It
Yeah.
takes a village to raise a child, we say.
Mhm.
And it takes a village to also understand and embrace technology. Right?
The reason why they trust me is because I have this team that backs me up, right? And that's the important part, because I'm the face, but there's, as you've said a few times in our meetings, there is a factory that is developing the technology. Like, there's a whole team, right? So the reason why they trust me is because I embody, or I represent, this whole team of experts, which backs me up in every single step of the way. So it's not about myself. It's actually about the team and the family, for sure.
And that leads me to a question. If you had one message for other people out there that are working at the intersection of technology and, farmers, rural communities in Latin America, what do you want to say to them? What's the message you want to shout out to them?
Focus on the people and focus on the basics. And you have one life, so make sure it is inspiring. Live, live to serve others, and people's lives can improve.
Love it. I love your deep answers, and I want to switch gears a little bit with you now. So
Sure.
thank you for that. Um, so I want to ask you a few quick questions. So if you give me focused answers on each one, about a minute, minute and a half, just don't think about it too long. Just go with it. Are you ready? Yeah. He's ready. So that quick round question for you. Now, Calvin, so what's one thing a coffee or cocoa farmer in Latin America needs from technology that most other tech companies completely miss?
What most tech companies completely miss is meeting farmers where they are and giving the farmers the tools for their own data governance. In other words, the tools, the knowledge, so that they can turn this data into value. That's what they're completely missing.
Nice one. Thank you. Um, you work across multiple countries. What's one lesson from Honduras that changed how you operate in Mexico or the other? Is there another way around where one inspired the other?
One thing that I learned is that each culture is different. There's a lot of there's a lot of pride around their culture, their nation. So what I learned is that you have to respect, you have to celebrate the culture of each nation, and you have to address each project, each country, each partner differently. So you have to meet them as well where they are.
Thanks. Next question for this fast switching gears to the quick question round. If someone tells you farmers don't want technology, what's your answer?
I if someone tells me that farmers don't like technology, I can show them all the projects across the region and tell them, actually, they might be right. They don't want technology. They want solutions. And we have great solutions through our technology that we have provided to them. So they want to solve problems, and we have provided solutions through technology.
So, but what a great answer, and plus the other one that you just gave um, gives me the clarity that what makes us and our Dimitra approach different is that we are not only collecting data, or we're not only analyzing data, or we're not only providing management for data management. We are actually, you said, meeting the customer where they are to provide value immediately. We're also giving them data in terms of, in form of weather data and analysis, in form of other AI reports on their soil quality, on their pest and disease detection, on so many other relevant topics that I believe that's where we're different, that we engage them on many more levels in that data collection that they have to do, and that they have to learn is just a small byproduct of the great tool that they receive, where others just come in with tech to collect data and then disappear again. Great, great answer. Thank you, Calvin. One final one that wraps us up from a question side, anyway. In 1 minute, why does Latin America matter for the future of global food supply chains?
Because Latin America is the backbone of global agriculture, not only producing high quality crops, but now it's building the infrastructure to provide high quality data. And it's something that I'm seeing from Mexico to Chile, where they're building digital traceability systems, national systems, compliance systems, and they are really focused on how to bring their practices, the farmers, and the vouching to a next level. So I see Latin America as, well, has been a trending topic. It has been a hot topic for quite some time, and now is positioning itself to the next level in digitization and digital infrastructure. So that's why it's really important for the world.
I see there's a lot of pride in you as well, in what you are doing with all your partners in Latin America. I'm definitely proud of the work that's being done, and I can't wait to hear the next update. I guess tomorrow. But no, not but. And this shall not be the end. This is just the end of our first coffee together, yours and mine, Kelvin, because we have many, many more things to talk about. We'll revisit what's going on with carbon. We'll talk about carbon insetting soon. What is that? And who are these insetters that are insetting carbon? The whole carbon project topic, by the way, is a special one. And I guess we should spend a little more time on it because it's such a big component, not only of our technology, but of the future of these agricultural supply chains for the governments, for the associations of those farmers, because it can and will bring money into the country that is vital to improve that digital infrastructure, to build more capacities, especially human capacities, and get them trained to work with us. So we're looking forward to that. But now we wrap it up for today. Thank you so much, Kelvin, for meeting me in Berlin in my kitchen, albeit virtually, maybe soon face to face when I come down to up when I come over to Latin America to celebrate in Mexico, Peru, Honduras, or beyond. Thank you so much. Any final thought from you?
I was gonna say thank you for having me here. Thank you for receiving me in your kitchen. I hope that I will dress accordingly for the occasion. And one last thought I would say is that there is a next revolution in agriculture, and I'm really excited to be part of it and being part of Dimitra. And I'm really proud of all the work we're doing together, and especially under your guidance and help, Andreas. Whether if it's anything that we need to solve or address, we bring that to you, and you are always helping us and guiding us, and you're always there for us. So really appreciate it.
That's very kind. Thank you. I humbly accept that. However, this is about you. This is about the great work you're doing. And I'm just merely here to add some confidence to what you're doing and bring the tools. So yes, and also that is done by a whole team. So the family at work, the family at work. Kelvin, thanks again for joining us today. I'm excited to see you again in the next meeting and next time on this podcast. Let's have a little toast to the end. Cheers.
Cheers.
And good night from Berlin.